If you parked your car at an airport or a parking lot, you need to know about this right now.
It happened to Atlanta resident Wes Clark. When he was traveling overseas last month, his BMW was taken.
I parked intentionally right by a camera, so super surprised when the car was gone.
Not only are they stealing your car, they're selling them online and fast.
And eventually she'll sell that car to an unsuspecting person, usually through social media, for cash.
So what can you do to protect your car?
In this video, we're going to break down how thieves are stealing your cars at airports or even at parking lots. But not only that, how they're also able to sell them online and fast. Now, I know how we talked about cars getting stolen recently and how it's going to affect your credit. Of course, if your car is stolen and your credit's not in position to replace that car, but this time it's different. Watch this.
Adding to the stress of holiday travel, tonight new warnings over thieves targeting cars parked at airports across the country. At the world's busiest airport, more than 300 cars have been stolen this year, according to Atlanta police, 3 times as many as last year.
It is frustrating. We're not the only airport that is experiencing this increase in auto thefts. We are taking steps to prevent this.
There is something very off.
It happened to Atlanta resident Wes Clark. When he was traveling overseas last month, his BMW was taken.
I parked intentionally right by a camera, so super surprised when the car was gone.
In Texas, police say they recently arrested the leader of a Cuban auto theft group that targets airports in multiple states, accused of stealing nearly $5 million worth of cars from Dallas-Fort Worth alone, using technology to reprogram key fobs, according to court documents.
If they see something, they need to say something.
Greg Erie oversees security at major airports in the New York City area and says auto theft has progressively become an organized crime issue nationwide.
They're doing it for the increasingly high resale value on these vehicles and the fact that they can get them out of the country and sell them overseas.
As tens of thousands park at airport lots, agencies like Port Authority now ramping up security, increasing police patrols, and embracing technology like license plate readers.
So what can you do to protect your car? Experts say make sure there are no valuables in sight. And on top of locking your vehicle, consider additional security measures like a tracking system or a steering wheel lock to help drive thieves away this holiday season. Emily Ikeda, NBC News, Newark, New Jersey.
Real quick, be sure to download our free ebook today. All you gotta do is scan this QR code right here or click the link in the description below. Now back to the video. Now it's sad to see something like this happening, especially around the holiday season. I mean, that guy, he literally parked his car right under a security camera. I'm sure security guards were driving around and he still got his car stolen. Now let's talk about what happens after they steal your car and how people are also buying those stolen cars without even knowing it. Check this out.
Well, you may find it hard to travel if you don't have a car. More than 1 million vehicles per year continue to be stolen in the U.S. That's according to the latest stats from the National Insurance Crime Bureau.
But what happens to those cars after a crime or a wild joyride? As Elizabeth Matthews found out in tonight's special report, you could end up buying one without knowing it.
So I obtained an arrest warrant through the Illinois Attorney General's office for a female by the name of Jocelyn Buster.
Joliet Police Detective Jeffrey German is leading the search to find the 27-year-old Joliet woman.
So she is buying vehicles from dealerships using a stolen identity, obtaining a car loan using that stolen identity, and eventually she'll sell that car to an unsuspecting person, usually through social media, for cash.
In the end, that deal adds up to no cash and no car for the consumer.
Eventually, that person that buys that vehicle will likely lose a vehicle because the bank will eventually find out that the car was purchased fraudulently and the title was not valid.
Lieutenant Adam Brocious also sees similar situations on social media involving stolen cars for sale and has to break the bad news to consumers who may not see it coming.
We'll tell them we've seen an error on your application for title, and we need to take a look at the vehicle itself to make sure that it is what it represents itself to be. And Once we know for sure, then we'll sit down with them and explain this is what happened.
Brocious is with the Illinois Secretary of State Police. He's also the director of the Illinois Statewide Auto Theft Task Force.
That's a lot of what the Illinois Statewide Auto Theft Task Force does is we'll receive those documents, we'll go out and actively find those vehicles that most often have been sold to an unsuspecting consumer.
Checking the VIN, or vehicle identification number, is one of the main pieces of information Brocious and his team look at when tracking stolen cars. We caught up with him at his Calumet City tow yard, where he showed us a few of the cars they've recovered earlier this year.
2023 Dodge Durango SRT. This particular vehicle was stolen south of the Chicagoland area. The VIN number on the dash and a couple other places were changed to lend legitimacy to the vehicle, where it was then retailed to the unsuspecting public. This one was recovered at a residence in one of the south suburbs after the Secretary of State's office received a fraudulent title which matched the replacement VIN that was on it.
Investigators say the consumer told them he found the car on Facebook Marketplace and paid cash for it.
Here we've got a 2018 Chevy Tahoe. This particular vehicle was stolen from a rental car company here in the Chicagoland using fraudulent identity documents to initially rent this vehicle. Once it was rented, here again, the VIN numbers were removed on this, replaced with other numbers to, again, lend legitimacy to that, where, again, it was sold on social media to the motoring public.
Before it was brought here, Brocious says investigators recovered the SUV in Markham from a person who also bought it online. It still has the fake VIN on it.
I can look at it and see that the font on the VIN numbers is not correct for a Chevy product made in 2018. You look at it a little bit closer, there is some creasing and bubbling in the Mylar sticker itself, which they will not do that. A legitimate one will not bubble and crease in the manner that this one has, at least not the ones that Chevrolet makes.
Brocious says it's common practice now to use a VIN from an existing vehicle of the same make, model, and year that isn't from the U.S.
They'll take that off of a car that is either exists in another country. Canada's is a popular country right now.
He says offenders like this method, which is often called VIN cloning, since government agencies don't communicate as easily between different countries. Brocious does add there are commercial VIN check databases that will catch the same VIN being used in different countries simultaneously.
Most people, unless you're in the industry, barely look at the VIN number on the car, if they even do when they go to buy it.
Finding these cloned VIN numbers is important to law enforcement. Many times, the stolen cars they're attached to are shipped overseas. The National Insurance Crime Bureau, or the NICB, says that's because they are often then used by organized crime syndicates for illegal activities such as smuggling drugs, weapons, or even terrorists across borders. In the past year, the NICB says it has disrupted nearly 2,000 organized crime networks, recovered over 300,000 vehicles. It's also recently launched a new partnership with the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol to stop stolen vehicles from being smuggled out of the country.
No matter where you buy the car from, the Illinois Statewide Auto Theft Task Force recommends that you check for the VIN number on the dash and also the federal sticker, which is located just inside of the driver's door. When you do, check for signs of tampering, things like scratches on the label or mounting rivets. They also say go ahead and purchase the vehicle's history report. That'll help determine if the title the seller has matches what the government has on file.
Now, I know in the other video that we did that was similar to this, people were talking in the comments and saying, hey, if you get a wheel lock, it's not going to help. But in my opinion, it's better than absolutely nothing at all. You need to have some type of GPS and some other things. But let's be honest, it's better than having nothing at all. And you at least want to try to slow down the process, because who knows, it might be those extra seconds or those extra minutes that they're trying to steal your car and someone's able to actually see what's going on. Now, as I mentioned, as far as your credit score is concerned, If your car is stolen, it's no different than your car being totaled, or if it gets into an accident and there's something that makes it total where it can't be fixed or repaired. Anytime those types of things happen, you have to be in the best position possible in order to replace that vehicle. If your credit score is not where it needs to be, then you may find yourself in a situation where, yeah, you got the check, but it may not be enough to get the car that you had once before, especially if you were like the person in the video where they bought a car, they paid cash, and now they got to give that car back. And there's no one that's going to give them that money back, because insurances won't cover something like that on the buying side. Now, if your car was stolen, then that's going to be a little bit different, because now you have the insurance company and now they're going to be the ones that's going to reimburse you. But again, sometimes it's not enough money to cover the absolute balance of the car. Some of us didn't have gap protection, which gap normally is going to cover the difference between how much you actually owe on the vehicle versus what the vehicle's actually worth. Some people are in an upside down situation, which means their car is worth less than what they actually owe. So if their car is stolen and they don't have gap protection, not only will you not have a car, but now you're going to have an open auto loan balance. So these are things you have to keep in mind. Granted, we don't hope, of course, we want to make sure that we're prepared if something does happen like this, because we don't expect something to happen like this. But you need to be in position. And if you have a certain type of credit score, that's going to help you big time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.